Hey there. Welcome back to Reddit Views, the best channel for cheating stories. Like and subscribe to the channel for more spicy stories and drop a comment for a chance to have your comment featured. Now, let's get into today's story video.
Found my husband and little sister in bed together. I discovered my spouse and younger sister in bed together. My spouse, 22 male, and I enjoyed what I consider to be the most fantastic, healthy, and happy marriage that I had ever experienced. We have been together for a little more than 2 years, although we have known one another for 7 years. We met while we were in high school. However, it was never dated. I have a little boy whose biological father is what you would refer to as a deadbeat. His father has been my spouse since he was 4 months old, and he has raised him as his own. Everyone, including my kid and relatives, adores my spouse. He reminds everyone of my father, who died unexpectedly of a heart attack 4 years ago. On the floor of our living room. My family and hubby became quite close in a short period of time. It was only a few months after we began dating that my husband and I decided to try for a child. However, we were unsuccessful in our attempts to conceive our son until 15 months after we began trying. Dealing with infertility was really difficult on my mental health. After probably the 7th negative pregnancy test in a row, I spent a significant amount of time sobbing into my husband's chest. We were overjoyed when we discovered that I was expecting our second son in November of last year. Global events occurred, which had an impact on my pregnancy to a certain extent. My younger sister, 18 female, came to our flat often to keep me company as my husband worked long hours as a result of the current global economic crisis. Although all 4 of my siblings and I are quite close, my younger sister and I are by far the closest of the 4 of us. I essentially raised her when my mother abandoned us to go live with her lover, 2 months after our father died, and I became her primary caregiver. I would do anything for her at the drop of a hat, and I would protect her and be by her side no matter what the circumstances were. My spouse decided to relax and have a drink for the first time in over a year on a Saturday in April. In order for my younger sister and him to have a drink together when I was pregnant, I went out and purchased some wine for her to consume. He is a very straight edge. While everyone else was playing games and watching movies, I was working. It was becoming late, and I was exhausted, so I retired to my room. Around 1 a.m., I woke up and saw that my husband was not in bed next to me, so I went out of bed to check if he was still playing video games, which he wasn't. In the end, I didn't bother to put my glasses on. When I walked into the living room, I saw him standing hunched over her, while she was resting on the sofa. My eyesight was severely clouded, so I couldn't see anything. They were both dressed, but I felt terribly nervous and sick to my stomach since I was with them. In response to my inquiry, my spouse said that he was conversing with her. I went back to the restroom and began weeping, but I just thought I was being foolish and hormonal, and I attempted to put the emotion to the back of my mind with my thoughts. One problem, I couldn't because the recollection was taking over my every thought and driving me nuts. But I didn't have any evidence that anything had occurred, and I didn't really see them doing anything, so I simply told myself that I was being paranoid and that they would never do anything like that to me, particularly not when I was significantly pregnant, and that I was being ridiculous. My spouse began to become more distant and, at times, downright hostile toward me. He seems to be always looking for things to argue with me over. Not paying any attention to me, or displaying any love or. This was completely out of character for him and very unlike him. I chalked it up to him being stressed out about the new baby and moved on. My husband and I purchased our first house in May, and I wanted to make sure that all of our rooms were painted before we relocated. My husband agreed, and my sister volunteered to assist him in any way she could. Fast forward to July, after 3 months of feeling that something wasn't quite right and that my marriage was on its way out the door. After 9 months of pregnancy, I woke up on a Monday morning to an empty bed and no sign of my spouse around. In the morning, I put in my contacts and walked into the living room to check whether he was awake and playing with the new cat that we had just brought home. My younger sister had slept with us the night before. My stomach fell when I couldn't find him. The door to my expectant child's nursery, where my sister, my little sister, was sleeping, was open. I was about to give birth. Even though my heart was pounding and my feet felt like cement blocks, I cautiously began heading towards the room. Only to find my husband on his knees, administering oral to my baby sister in the nursery of our unborn son. I knew it. "Get out of my home," were the first words that came out of my lips. I'll never forget the expression on their faces when I saw them. I was very devastated and terrified. In disbelief, I rushed to our master bathroom and stood there for a long time. When my husband ultimately entered the room and attempted to converse with me, I hurled everything I could grasp at him and urged him to get out of the house and leave me alone. Because he didn't, I was able to push past him. The remainder of the day is a haze, and I don't recall much of what happened. With the exception of concealing his keys so he could drive her back to my mother's place, he ended up doing so anyways. While I am horrified, beyond wounded, and saddened by what has transpired, I can't bring myself to leave him. I am still so upset and distraught by what has transpired. Until recently, I had only spoken to my sister a few times, attempting to figure out why/how she could do something like that to me, of all people, and was unsuccessful. Neither of them had a response, and they had practically every time she came over, while I was sleeping. I have no desire or need to develop a connection with my sister at this time. I honestly believe she owes me more devotion than anybody else on the face of the globe. Can you tell me how I can get over this ultimate betrayal from the two people who are closest to me? Edit, just to clarify up any misunderstandings. My spouse didn't groom her or take advantage of her in any way whatsoever. She has said that everything was done with mutual consent. Additionally, both my husband and she have said that there were no romantic sentiments involved in the situation. It's all about the. Aside from that, I'd want to point out that my younger sister has a long history of sleeping with mature guys. Nevertheless, I never imagined she would go over the line and sleep with my husband. By stating this, I am in no way attempting to deflect any of the blame from him. Currently, a male, 27, is doing jail time for having intercourse with her in the back of his vehicle when she was 15 years old, which was discovered by police. In addition, the dude's name was the same as our elder brother's, which indicates that she is suffering from major troubles. I discovered she'd been using my while I was at work a couple of years ago and was furious. She's insane and has trouble with boundaries, which, obviously, disgusted me off, so I tossed them away. But, again, I honestly didn't expect her to do anything to attempt to derail my marriage or our connection with each other. She also has a very important place in my son's heart, which he shares with her. I don't see why she would take the possibility of damaging everything. To be quite honest, I'm baffled. Story 2. Just found out wife cheated. To begin, my wife and I have had a significant communication breakdown for quite some time. I had a strong sense she was sneaking around, but I just discovered out this weekend. It disturbs me that she has been drip-feeding me information. We spent a fantastic 2 days discussing and lamenting over what went wrong. I can't blame her for seeking attention from someone else when I wasn't giving her what she needed. It had been a nice 2 days of reconnecting, but there was still that look in her eyes that I couldn't get rid of. She then informed me that was more than she had first led me to believe. She said it was just texting and flirting, but then admitted she made out with him and that he touched her. It's not amusing how much I want to trust her. But after hearing additional information, it seemed like the previous 2 days of conversing and being honest were for nothing, since she was still basically lying so that she wouldn't hurt me anymore. But I can't get these darn mental movies out of my head. We've been intimate again after it occurred, and I want to be with her, but I don't feel like I can really enjoy it. I feel this pressure to be so excellent that she won't leave me for someone better, and my mind goes wild when we're having intimate. I simply get a terrible sensation now and then, like I don't know anything. We're going to start treatment, and I really want to reconcile and move on since she means so much to me and for the sake of our baby. I'm not sure what the goal of this whole message is, but I suppose I just wanted to get this down on paper. Any words of advice or encouragement would be much appreciated. Edit, whether I agree with some of you or not is irrelevant, but I'd want to thank everyone who has responded. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to share your thoughts and comments. I know I'm terrible at this, but it's my way of showing folks how much I appreciate them. It's something I've forgotten how to do for myself, much alone strangers, so thank you all very much.